for this demo, we've decided to found a company. It's called Bilot Tech, very original. And the company is specialized in manufacturing all these very weird high-tech components and gadgets. We operate in 43 different countries around the world in very many odd places. And our enterprise landscape is very typical, includes many systems that you guys might have in your real enterprise landscape. So we have enterprise, on-premise systems, and then we have cloud systems as well, and services. And just like Jonathan said, we're leveraging Tableau, and specifically Tableau Server with its governance and versioning features, then to bring all this disparate data together and then share insights into our data with my colleagues. So for today's breakfast session, we have this business case where we have data coming in from all these different systems, and we've noticed that our sales have been dropping during the past few quarters, and we basically now have to save this sinking ship before we're all out of a job. And so then we have decided to elevate ourselves to CFO, sales director, and group controller, so we can then basically find out what's happening in the company. And these are our roles today. I'll be looking at the sales and our profitability on a kind of overall level, and then Ashwin will show us some of our profitability analysis, and then Toni has actually prepared our sales budget, but then he'll then kind of tie all this together then in later on.
So basically, this is our demo scenario. We first start by analyzing our sales and sales margin data with different geographical aspects and having a look at the trends from the many years. And then we also take a look how are we achieving our goals and targets, and also to take a deeper analysis on the product and customers. Then we continue our journey to getting to next insight, which is having the cost allocation from our different departments, from our customer service to our activities, and then finally we allocate those costs to our customers. And then we continue this demo by further analyzing our fixed cost by accounts, activities, and customers, and we provide this second insight to our sales director. Then we deep dive into these customers whose fixed costs are relatively high. We want to understand what is the reason behind these customers having so small margins and so much costs on them. And finally, we get the fourth insight about the true profitability of our customers. And the final step in our demo is to share all of these insights we have gathered during our data journey to our decision makers via Tableau Server.
All right, so we can come back to this then later on to see how we've achieved all this. So we built this enterprise landscape for today. So we have, because we're a SAP partner, so we have some SAP systems here as well. And then we have our third-party ERP. And these are some of our on-premise systems that are running here at Bilot Tech offices. We have some BPC, we have the SAP BPC system, so our planning and consolidation system, which is providing our sales targets for our dashboards. We have our profitability and cost management system, which is providing our driver-based costing data, which then Ashwin will get into a little bit further. we'll have our CRM system in the cloud, where we have our customer complaints and all that other kind of CRM related data, and then our ERP is providing our billing and master data through Azure's SQL database. And so we're pulling all this data from live systems and these kind of extracts onto Tableau Server, which then will basically join together. So in order to save time, I've published a blank a workbook to our server, which has all these data connections ready, so we can get straight into looking at insights. So see here in the left top hand corner, we have our ERP data, then we have our CRM data from our Cloud for Customer system, from the BPC system we have our sales targets, and then from our PCM system we have our allocated fixed costs. So blending all of these different data sets together, many of them are live, and then some of them are extracted into Tableau Server's data engine, so then they're all available. So basically, first because we're a global company, so I'm interested in looking at basically where our different types of sales are happening around the world. So because our ERP data includes geographic data, so then I can see basically where all our sales are happening around the world. And you can see that as we're operating in many different places, Tableau will then, according to the data, plot them on the canvas. Then, just to add some context, then I'm adding sales here, and then just formatting a little bit so then I can see it a little bit better. This is fine, but then I know that our sales guys have sent me an Excel that groups basically all these different areas where we operate into these regions, which then makes it a little bit easier to see which parts of these different countries are sort of grouped together. So basically sales regions. So in order to bring that in, I have a separate Excel, which then has my different countries grouped by different sales regions. So there are my different countries and then my different sales regions, and I'm just putting that into Tableau, into a new to data source, and Tableau has now it's already noticed that basically my ERP billing data already has country, and my region has country as well, so it knows how to link those together. In a scenario where your dimensions are maybe not linked as sort of nicely as ours is, then we would then edit the dimension names, but then we could link those together. So with Tableau 10, we have this new feature called custom territories. So as a region is just a text string which dictates, for example, east, west, south, or central, or what have you. So we can use the geographic location with all these with this geographic data, and then use that to populate a kind of a geographic region, and then we can use that on the map. So now we're turning region into a custom territory, and then to add like a second layer to this map, I'll turn this into a dual axis, and then add region here on color and turn this into a filled map. There. So now, just to make this a little more legible, we can then see that where our different sales are happening around the world. Here on the higher level, it's not as visible, but then when we drill down, for example, to Europe, then we can see where all the different sales are happening in different countries, and then see with the colors that how these different countries are linked in our regions. So we have 4 different regions: East, South, North, and West, and you can see them there. So then this is basically my now sales globally, and in order to then get into why or to see actually how badly our company is doing at the moment, I'm going to analyze some trends. So in our ERP data, we have sales, which I'm going to check on a longer time frame. You can see that it looks like we're actually, in terms of sales, doing quite nicely, but I've heard that we're not. So just open that up to a quarter level, and then just to make sure, plot my polynomial trend. So this looks like everything is fine, but I'm still a bit worried. I have my EBIT here, and we've calculated this EBIT from 2 different data sources. So we have sales and we have the COGS in our ERP data, but then our fixed cost data is coming from our PCM system. And since we've linked these up, we can then use EBIT here as well. So as you can see, things are bad. And we have now fixed costs for this particular scenario. We only have them for this last year. So then we're actually going to just analyze that. And we're going to pick this year. So now we can actually see that even though it looks like our sales are going up in a kind of a longer trend, than the actual situation is actually much worse. So we'll have to now then figure out why. Okay, so then let's go forward with our analysis. I want to have a look at our products and our product groups. So I'll have a look at our sales with my products, and then I will actually check this on a time scale. So having a look at data over different quarters, we can see that some of our product groups have been selling quite well, but then we know that the smart products group is actually the one that we sell the most, and that's the one that we kind of are focusing on as a company, and well, as we can see, the sales are going down, and we can also calculate basically what the kind of the change has been in the since, for example, the last period. So with these table calculations in Tableau, we can say that we want to have a look at what, for example, the difference has been related to, well, basically the last year. Something else that's also interesting is that because we do a lot of invoicing, our sort of our average invoice size is something that is very interesting. So because we have a lot of billing data, and there's lots of these different invoices, so in order to calculate like an average invoice size, we'd have to pull all the invoice data first, and then in like a traditional system, we'd have to pull all the invoice data onto the canvas first, and then calculate that. But in Tableau, what we can do is we can use these level of detail calculations and basically say that we want to read all the different invoices and then calculate an average for those. So I've actually done that already. So we have excuse me, we have an average calculation that basically reads the billing ID and then sums that up on sales, and then does an average calculation for that. So using that, we can basically check what our average invoice size is over the different time periods. And as I'm doing this calculation, it's basically pulling the data from our SQL server in the cloud, and then using that data as well with our other systems, and then combining that here on the canvas. So here, for example, we have now our average invoice size just through all of our product groups, but then of course we can then split that out and see how that relates to all these different product groups. And then I dive down onto for example a quarter level over the years, and even though which is something that is really interesting here is that if you think about our sales in general, they're going down, but it looks like our average invoice size is constantly growing. So that's is something that we have to then look into. It might be that people are ordering bigger things but in less quantities, and then of course that then adds to our adds to our own costs, for example. So we're going to call that average invoice size. So we've kind of looked at these things on a higher level, and then we then want to start including more and more data in order to find out basically where where this problem in our profitability is happening. So what I want to now do is Tony's provided me with a sales target for our different customers. So I want to go and use that. I'm going to use my customer information together with my sales, and then in my other data source here I have my sales, and then my other data source I have my sales target. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a average line here, which is there. So then I will tell Tableau that I actually want it to show me this, show me where my sales target is in relation to my data. And as we're looking at this particular year, that's the one I'm only interested in, because my sales target is only for this year. So now with Tableau, now I have my sales targets here. Let's make that just a little bit more legible there. And that's all well and good. I can see my different customers here. They're now sorted by their size in sales, but just to make this a little bit more legible, I wanna say whether these are above or below my sales targets. So I'm gonna just say that if my sales are smaller than my sales target, then we are below, and otherwise we are above. There. And then with this, we can then plot this here onto the canvas. So when I'm showing this, then later on in my visualization, I will be able to sort of quickly see which of my customers are above or below our sales targets. As you can see, we have about 100 customers. Majority of them look like they're above our sales target, but you can see that the ones that we're selling a lot to then seem to all be below. So that's something that we of course have to then look at. All right, so we have those, and then we can then also pull in here our sales margin, just for reference here, and see. Just get rid of the coloring there, so we can then see what our sales margin is for all these customers as well. So basically now we've gone from like a global view to having a look at our trends, and now since we're looking at this year, because the previous years they've been good to us, but now after 2015 something has dramatically happened. So now we're going to focus on that. Then we had a look at our sales, and then how they've changed in relation to our previous years, and then gone into kind of like an invoicing view, where we're seeing that our average invoice size is growing, but our sales are still dropping. So that's bad. And then we can see that how our different customers are, whether they're hitting our sales targets or not. At this point, we have our sales, and then we have our COGS, and we have our fixed costs on an EBIT level, but we can't basically say what our true profitability for our different customers is, because we haven't allocated our fixed cost yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save this and publish this to our Tableau server, and then Ashwin can do some fixed cost allocations, and then build on this dashboard, or this workbook. So when we have basically all our data, then we can put it into a final kind of story that has all the data we need then to display what our true profitability is. So these data sources I've already published onto our Tableau server, but if we were starting this from scratch, Tableau would then of course publish all the data connections to our server. But now they're here. I'm going to log out, so Ashwin can then take over.
Okay, so I see that he has done some kind of analysis here, and I noticed that from the trend he's worried about these reduction in EBIT, so probably he wants me to check out what's happening with our profitability. So maybe here would be a good time to do our fixed cost allocation. So I'm logging on to our PCM server where I can do this for us. PCM, by the way, for those of you who don't know, is our activity-based costing system where we basically take our costs, which are also known as resources, and assign them to our activities and then further distribute them to our cost objects, which in this case are our customers. Okay, and our company is Bilot Technologies, so I will log on to that one. Okay, so over here we'll start off with analyzing our costs at a fixed cost level, and those can be viewed here. So we only have two line items, salaries and real estate, and we can see that on average it's about 11 million per month for this year. And these costs are eventually allocated to our activities. Now the way to allocate them is we use something called a resource driver. And we connect the resource driver from our fixed cost to our activities. So for our salaries, a logical resource driver would be headcount. And for real estate, it would be the number of square meters. So let's look at what our resource driver values are. Well, our headcount is about 120, 125, something like this, and square meters is about 1,000. But now we have to apportion these according to each activity. So that basically depends on the size of our sales team or our marketing team or our customer service team. So I've split the resource driver accordingly, 60, 50, 10, and it fluctuates according to changes in the team. Now that we have this, we can allocate our costs to the activity level. And here you can see it at an aggregated level, and you can see that the costs have been allocated. But now that we have the costs at the activity level, it's time to connect them to our cost objects, which is our customers. And in order to do that, we need to first assign our activity drivers to our cost objects. So we have sales, we have our cost center, and we have our cost objects. And we assign all of our customers to this cost object based on the activity driver number of sales calls. Similarly, for marketing, we have a cost driver, which is number of campaigns. And for customer service, it is the number of customer complaints. These activity driver values need to also be entered, and they have been entered over here over many periods, and we can have a quick look at the figures. Okay, whatever. Now it's time to actually do our cost allocation. So I'm going to, it's already calculating, so that's great. Our costs are already being calculated, and we can view our figures. So here we have some cost object value calculations, and now let me try to analyze this. These numbers are quite hard to read. Maybe it's better if I go to a graph view here. Yeah. Oh, that's even harder. Wait. This must make a lot of sense if I remove some of these. Hold on. I still don't get it. I still don't understand what's happening with my data. Maybe I should visualize this using Tableau. So here, I'm going to look at my allocated fixed cost data from a different angle. Okay. So I can see that we have some fixed costs which have been spread out across these different customers. And let me just sort this so that it makes more sense. Okay. So most of our costs are coming from these 3 customers. And what's happening here? I'm not sure. Let me check it out by line item. Okay, let me add some text. Okay, this looks fairly proportional and logical because most of our costs were in salaries and real estate, roughly 6:5 ratio. So I can't really figure out anything from here. Maybe I'll try analyzing it by activity. Aha. This provides some more insight here. I see that for this customer, our customer service costs are quite high, much higher than for other customers. There must be something going on there. It almost looks as if the costs for this customer are more than half of its total costs. Let me just verify that. Yes, it is more than half. It's 55% of my total costs are from here. That's quite shocking. Let me save this. Let me do some further analysis now. I don't want to lose this, so I'm just going to duplicate the sheet. And I'm going to take this out. And let's analyze it by quarter. Okay. So if we analyze it by quarter, now the results are even more interesting. I see that in the first 2 quarters, these 2 customers were doing quite okay. But in quarter 3 and quarter 4, our customer service costs have really skyrocketed. So this is quite alarming. Maybe I should check out our CRM data to explain this. So we also have our CRM cloud information here. And subject, text, date, exact date, okay. Yeah. I can't really read the text, so let me just increase the size. Okay. All right. And I should also add a customer ID. Customer name. Okay, so we have our list of CRM activities here. Let me try to connect these 2 together somehow. So let me build a dashboard. And in this dashboard, I'm going to put my activity costs by quarter and my CRM activities. Okay, so now if I click here, let's see. Now I can see what the reason is. It's because of all these different complaints and defects in our products and returns. That makes a lot of sense. Same thing over here. Okay, now I get a better idea of what's going on. I'm going to save this dashboard. Fixed costs analysis. And now I'm just going to save this. Save as done. Or maybe I'll just do done. Save as? Yeah. All right. Okay. So now that I've saved my worksheet, I think Karri will be able to better understand our profitability figures now that he has the full picture with our fixed cost information. So back to Karri.
All right. So Ashwin now logs out of our Tableau server, and then let me just close this. So then I've had my lunch now, and then I'm going to come back to Tableau server and then go back to R, and then I can see Ashwin's updated, or our entire updated workbook. So now that basically Ashwin has added these activity-based costing data here, and by quarter, and our CRM events, and then also actually built a dashboard in Tableau Server. Then, as the data is now allocated in PCM, then I can basically now plot my EBIT on a customer level. So what I'll do is I will bring in my customer ID and my name, and then my EBIT. Yes, that looks nice. And then actually split that off by quarter, and then just choose this year. There, and then I will just also check that I have my data sources linked properly, so it will pull in all the data. There. And just to have a look at this on a more of a granular level, then we'll just check this on a quarter level and see how we've been doing. Probably want to sort that just so here we can see then all our customers and our EBIT then on a customer level for 2016. So this is great. We have basically all the data we need, but then to kind of finalize this, we want to pull this all into one story, which we can then distribute through Tableau Server, and then Toni can, for example, log in to the system and then go through the performance of the company with, for example, his colleagues. So what we'll do now is we'll start pulling this together into a dashboard. I'll just change the size of this. Let's make that float there for a second, and our trend. And change. There we have our first dashboard. Then, so this is our overall performance. Then we can actually use, where's Ashwin's actually we have this already here. We'll just make this slightly bigger there, and then our final one can then be our customer EBIT and our sales targets. There. Now we just want to, we don't need that. Everybody knows what red is good and green is, red is bad and green is good. Apparently we don't. There, we then will basically then just give this a name and link these different dashboards together so that we can use them as different filters. And now that I have all these different dashboards together, I'm going to then put these into one story, which I can then publish onto the server. We want to go first with our overall performance, and I'm going to say, give some notes here for the person who will then be looking at this, and we can say that sales for 2016 have been there, and then add our fixed cost analysis here. Yeah, and then finally just have our customer analysis and see that our biggest customers are below our sales targets. There. So now we've combined these data from all these different systems into our dashboard. There. And now, as this is finished, then I'm going to now publish this to the server again. But what I will now do is I will only publish this last story. So that will then mean that anybody who then has a look at this will only be able to then see this final dashboard, and they won't be able to edit it, and this will be the final word. And I hope I don't lose my job, because we are doing badly. But now we have all the analysis we need then to continue looking at or making our sales better. Do you, Tony, want to then just log in? Final.
So I'm finally the consumer of all of these insights in the Tableau Server. So I log on to the Tableau Server, and I can find here.
It's not that one. It's the go back.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, this one.
No, it's the final last one.
Oh yeah. So I can now see the story that has been published to me, so I can continue doing my analysis here, and I can also make a presentation, because this is kind of a PowerPoint presentation, but this is much more better. So let's put it on the full screen, and we can see the insights and nice dashboards that our team has created, and I can now start basically analyzing my data. Okay. Just a second, yeah. So I can have this as my starting point, is the map view, and I can use these same filters that Karri has created. So I could, for example, choose one geographical area here and use this as a filter for the... There is no data. Yeah, sorry about that. Maybe something in here. Also not much data here. So I will continue to the fixed cost view here. Okay, so now I can interact with my data. I can highlight these customer service costs and see my complaints from the CRM system. Or I could select, for example, this whole quarter here and see all the customer complaints for this quarter only. Or I could even just select one customer ID from here to see all the customer related complaints. So this is quite interesting to truly interact during giving my presentation to my audience. And then finally see the last dashboards about my sales targets and my EBIT level by different customers. So I can truly interact here and make these additional selections and deep dive into the analysis. So that's all for the demo. Thank you for your interest, and now I think it's start to move on to Q&A session. So if you have any questions, we can now stop recording the cameras